Hey Drew class, let's go over how to use the unit circle to find the value of a cotangent of an angle, and then we'll look at, even though it says here don't use your calculator, we'll look at how Desmos can help with problems like this. So I'm going to show you right here. Cotangent is 1 over the tangent, or you can think of it as cosine over sine, the x-coordinate divided by the y-coordinate. So if I'm looking here on the unit circle, first of all, I see pi over 6, but negative. So here's pi over 6. That's the first, if I go in the counterclockwise direction, that's the first special angle that I come to is pi over 6. Well, negative just means I am rotating clockwise instead of counterclockwise. So if I went down in this direction, the first angle that I would come to is 11 pi over 6, but that's coterminal. That's the same thing as a negative pi over 6. So that's the angle that I'm after here. And I can think of it as not 11 pi over 6, but negative pi over 6 for the purposes of this problem. Now, cotangent is defined to be the x-coordinate there at that value over the y-coordinate. So the x-coordinate here is the square root of 3 over 2, and then I divide by the y-coordinate. But if you recall, what we talked about earlier is I can flip and multiply. So I get the 2's cancel, and I get a positive square root of 3 divided by negative 1. That's a negative square root of 3. And that's what I get for my answer. So negative square root of 3 is the value of cotangent. All right, so I'm going to put a negative sign first, and then the square root symbol, and then the 3. All right, check the answer. So it likes that. Now I want you to see the other option here is undefined. So cotangent is undefined if we are on the x-axis, so like the cotangent of 0 or pi. If I'm over here, the y-coordinate is 0 because it's x divided by y. The y-coordinate is 0, meaning we're on the x-axis, and cotangent is going to be undefined. So that is a possibility, just depending on the angle that you have. Now, I do want to show you that, again, even though it says don't use technology, I want to show you how I could have done this problem with technology. So if you look on a unit circle, you'll notice every value that you see on here is either a whole number, 1, 0, a fraction, 1/2, or it's a radical, square roots in the top, and then possibly a positive or a negative. Okay, so negative pi over 6. So the first thing you have to do here, if you're going to use technology to help you, you have to establish where you are. So we're in quadrant 4. And I know that because that's a negative pi over 6. That's that angle right there. So I'd be in quadrant 4. That means the y-coordinate's negative, the x-coordinate's positive. Sine is negative, cosine is positive. So that's first one is a big one. You got to know where you are. You know what your signs are. Now, if I type in exactly what I see into Desmos, so cotangent negative pi over 6, I get that number. If obviously I can't type that in, but number one, I notice that it's negative. So that's one thing. When we type in, when we get values of special angles, pi over 6, pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, numbers that are on the unit circle, when I type in those numbers, the things that come out are either going to be numbers I recognize, like a half, 0, negative 1, or they're going to be these radicals that maybe I don't recognize, like the square root of 3, square root of 3 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. And because the cotangents, the secants, the cosecants are the reciprocals of these numbers that we see, and the ratios of these numbers, it too will have 1s and 2s and square roots of 2s and square roots of 3s in those values. So what I'm trying to get at is, if I type in a number into Desmos and I don't recognize it, what I can do is square that number. So I'm going to call this like A, my answer. A equals what I just typed in. Well, if I square that, I get 3. So that means that because I'm squaring it and getting this number 3, that means this number is the square root of 3. Okay, but it's negative. When I typed it in there, it's a negative number. So this is the negative square root of 3. So I can type it in just to verify, and I see that that matches up. But when you type in special angles into tangent, cotangent, cosine, sine, any of them, if you don't recognize the number, if it's not 1 or 0 or a half or a quarter or something like that, square it and see what you get when you square it. Because Desmos, again, is not going to give you exact values like square root of 3. And then you know that that number was the square root of whatever this number is. That's a little trick that you can use for Desmos to help you with these values that are on the unit circle, but they are irrational.